all this mean to his campaign? Joining me now is Democratic strategist Maria Cardona, Republican strategist Rick Wilson, CNN political reporter Sarah Murray, and Katrina Pearson, spokesman for the Tea Party Leadership Fund. I appreciate all of you joining us tonight. So let's have a great conversation about this. Okay, so Maria, you first. Trump says only deviants would assume that he was talking about women. I can't believe I even said this, menstruating. Are you a deviant?
Well, you know what's interesting, Don, when I heard the comments when he was doing the interview on your show, I didn't think of it that way. And so I actually believe Donald Trump's explanation. But here's the point. It doesn't matter. He disqualified himself in terms of being somebody capable and deserving of being a commander-in-chief a long time ago. And what I find sort of bemusing and interesting is the conservative blogosphere's selective outrage. Where was their outrage when Donald Trump essentially insulted a whole country and 54 million Latinos that live in this country? Where was their outrage when he insulted our veterans, our military heroes, when he insulted the whole of nursing mothers? So I think that what he said was outrageous, and if people who heard it that way, of course they're going to be offended. I think it was stupid for him to talk about that. I don't think any man speaking in public should ever talk about blood coming out of any part of a woman's body.
Well, Maria, I think that when you...
And so, I just think it's Trump.
When you say that, I wasn't sure what he meant by it. Certainly my mind doesn't work that way. It didn't strike me that way when I heard it. I thought it was a bit crude, but Donald Trump is a bit crude. And Megyn Kelly is a friend of mine. Had I thought it was that way, I would have defended her more. But she doesn't need me to defend her. She's a strong woman. What do the rest of you think about Donald Trump? What do you think he meant when he said about that, said that on Friday? Rick?
Look, I think a lot was indicated by that sort of snide 13-year-old boy tone he used when he said something like "in other places." You know, that was obviously something that you could easily infer that. And the fact of the matter was that this is not a guy who has covered himself in glory in terms of dealing with women. Okay. So this is
Sarah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just think that kind of comment, when you're talking about blood coming out of someone's body one way or another, is not what you want to be talking about as a Republican presidential candidate or any presidential candidate. The reality is that is pretty crude language, as you pointed out, Don, and I think that people who are offended just don't think that belongs in the dialogue for people who want to be president.
Katrina?
Well, and I'm going to have to agree with Maria on two counts. So first of all, it is interesting that there is selective outrage because we didn't hear anything from the other side when Sarah Palin was being dragged through the mud. And more importantly, I watched the show myself, and I, just like Maria, didn't take it that way. When you hear all the comments in context, it didn't come across that way. It came across as if
because he said that he said similar things about Chris Wallace, and he was went on to say that. So it didn't strike some people that way, but
But people hear what they want to hear.
People hear what they want to hear, but we have to take him at his word. He said he didn't mean it. It was certainly crude. But listen, just moments ago, Megyn Kelly actually addressed the whole thing on her show, and here's what she said tonight.
Apparently, Mr. Trump thought the question I asked was unfair and felt I was attacking him. I felt he was asked a tough but fair question. We agreed to disagree. Mr. Trump did interviews over the weekend that attacked me personally. I've decided not to respond. Mr. Trump is an interesting man who has captured the attention of the electorate. That's why he's leading in the polls. Trump, who is the front runner, will not apologize. And I certainly will not apologize for doing good journalism. So I'll continue doing my job without fear or favor. And Mr. Trump, I expect, will continue with what has been a successful campaign thus far. This is a tough business, and it's time now to move forward.
Maria, that is what one calls taking the high road.
So yes, and I actually think that she is going to be viewed very highly because of that. But here's the point. Again, where was the outrage, not just from the conservative blogosphere, but from the proper candidates who were on the stage with Mr. Trump when he went after Megyn Kelly in the debate? And over the weekend when he retweeted a tweet about her being a bimbo, all of that, I think, underscores that he is not qualified to become president of the United States.
Okay.
And everything that he has said before that as well.
Here is what Roger Ailes, Fox News president, said about the whole thing. He said, Donald Trump and I spoke today. We discussed our concerns, and I again expressed my confidence in Megyn Kelly. She is a brilliant journalist, and I support her 100%. I assured him that we will continue to cover this campaign with fairness and balance. We had a blunt but cordial conversation, and the air has been cleared. So, Katrina, Trump is now saying that Megyn should apologize to him. He also posted a tweet linking to an interview that she did with Howard Stern. This was back in 2010, and it says, oh, really? Check out innocent Megyn Kelly discussion on Howard Stern's show 5 years ago. I am the innocent, pure one. And here's the interview Trump's referring to where Howard and Megyn talk about, well, just about everything.
Well, yeah, and I think he was...
Those are real breasts.
Yeah, these are real. I mean, they don't look fake, please.
Wow.
You know what's funny is when I got pregnant...
You're a C cup, aren't you? You are.
My husband calls them killer bees.
Oh, they're bees.
Yeah.
They look like C's to me, don't they?
We used to call them the killer bees, and then when I got pregnant, they became swimming seas, and Doug was frolicking in the ocean.
Really?
Okay, so here's the thing, Katrina. I remember when that interview aired. I lived in Atlanta, and I had only watched Megyn Kelly. I didn't know her then. But when you go on Howard Stern, that's what he does. That's his shtick. And I thought she handled herself very well on that show. She didn't give away anything. She played along, but didn't give him too much. Is it time for him to let this feud with Megyn Kelly go?
Well, yeah, I do think so, and she did handle herself very well. And what we're seeing with Trump is the way Donald Trump responds. This is the exact same thing like the Howard Stern. But Megyn did a really good job. I think where he feels a little slighted is the question she asked him about his comments had nothing to do with Donald Trump the man. It had everything to do with Donald Trump the television character. It's no different than calling Ronald Reagan a wife beater just because he beat up a woman in a movie he played in once. And so I think that's why he feels a little slighted.
Rick, you're being awfully quiet this evening. Rick, you know, I went back. They replayed the debate this weekend on Fox, and I watched the whole thing. I do have to say it was pointed. I mean, Donald Trump did get personal questions, and the other guys mostly got policy questions, but Donald Trump is not a politician, so there weren't many policy questions to ask him.
Right. There is no policy to be had with Donald Trump. This is purely an ego operation with Donald Trump. There's no there policy-wise. I'm sure his policy papers are going to come out with the giant Trump logo on a single page of double-spaced paper, saying things like, I'll make our healthcare system terrific. You know, the problem with the debate and the questions is that Donald Trump took questions about his character that will be asked of him if he is the nominee, if the apocalypse is upon us and Donald Trump is the nominee, he will be asked questions like that.
But should he not hit back if someone attacks him, or if he thinks something is inappropriate? Why shouldn't he hit back?
Let me tell you, there's a difference between being not PC and being a giant epic douche canoe. And this guy goes, he acts like somebody who is not presidential. He acts like somebody who is not, doesn't have the gravitas and dignity of the president's office. And you know what? And it's a tough balance. You wanted to punch back. You wanted to be assertive. You wanted to have some presence on the stage. But on the other hand, this becomes completely about Donald Trump's delicate little ego. And you notice this isn't just about Megyn Kelly, who is an outstanding journalist by every account. This isn't just about her. It's every time he's dinged by a reporter, there's suddenly an idiot, a loser, a jackass, the worst in the world. This is a guy who deals in this hyperbolic rhetoric and language at all times.
Rick, I did not give a warning before the show because I'm sure kids may be watching. But I tell you what.
It's late, Don.
But Don, Rick is right.
You know,
Rick is right on one aspect.
This is Dawn after dark.
It's early on the West Coast, so I apologize to all the families there.
Sorry about that.
But Sarah, before I get you back in as the trusted CNN correspondent, let's have a little palate cleanser, and then we'll come back. So what will Donald Trump say next? You're going to hear him live on CNN's New Day tomorrow morning at 7. And stay with me, everybody. We've got a lot more to talk about coming up. Does Donald Trump have a woman problem? Hillary Clinton says his remarks are outrageous and offensive, but there's another Republican that she says is just as troubling. Plus, crowds of demonstrators gathering on the streets of Ferguson tonight, a year after the death of Michael Brown. You're looking at live pictures now. We're going to go there live.